So who's in charge of SAF AQ? Position is currently vacant. SAF AQ is normally the most important role in the Air Force. Who controls all of our acquisition decisions? The Air Force has created DRPMs, or Direct Reporting Program Managers. Right now, it's just one of them. It's General White, and he has all the most critical programs in the Air Force. Then you have General Luke Cropsey on the military side. Now, General Cropsey came out of C3BM. He is one of the most capable generals I've ever met. The Air Force was once the most risk-taking, pushing the limits force. That culture has shifted over time, and they lost a lot of that risk-taking edge. I'm confident even without SAF AQ being filled, the Air Force is in good shape. So who's in charge of SAF AQ? Position is currently vacant. SAF AQ is normally the most important role in the Air Force for who controls all of our acquisition decisions and where everything kind of rolls up. But under the new Air Force structure, that role matters a little bit less than it did in the past because the Air Force has created DRPMs, or Direct Reporting Program Managers. Right now, it's just one of them. It's General White, and he has all the most critical programs in the Air Force underneath his purview, and he goes directly to the SecDef, or the Secretary of Defense. What's important to know, though, is all the rest of the programs, they still follow that same reporting chain where they would go up to SAF AQ for their ultimate programmatic direction should a PAE need some assistance or have to hit those higher thresholds. So who's in charge? Well, you actually have a pretty capable leadership team. Performing the duties right now on the civilian side are William Bailey. He is also the director of the RCO, Rapid Capabilities Office. I actually worked with him right at the end of my time doing B-21, and he had just taken over some responsibilities inside the Rapid Capabilities Office. Very smart guy, nice guy. I think he went to Notre Dame, so we'll give him a pass on that. But he is a very capable acquisition executive, and he has managed some of the biggest programs because B-21 is still inside the RCO portfolio. Then you have General Luke Cropsey on the military side. Now, General Cropsey came out of C3BM. He is one of the most capable generals I've ever met. I've been on the airplane with him a handful of times, gotten to speak with him. I actually helped kick off his culture campaign years ago when I was working in the Digital Transformation Office. We put some of his requirements on our contract to kick off his new culture campaign to try to align this C3BM portfolio that he had in his lap, which was very tall order job that he got delivered and was responsible for. Now he's the mill exec up at SAF AQ, and if you've ever looked in General Cropsey's eyes, he's got two different color eyes. So he's like, it's very engaging. He's hard to look away from, and you just believe him. You like him. So between Mr. Bailey and General Cropsey, SAF AQ is in good hands. The leadership team up there has tons of acquisition experience. They've been PEOs. They've been in charge of some of the most important programs, and they have the social intelligence to be able to lead the force where it needs to go through this transition. What most people don't realize is that the Air Force has done business in a very risk-averse, conservative manner for years. It got away from its core roots. The Air Force was once the most risk-taking, pushing the limits force, some of the speed barriers being broken. And, you had to have that kind of culture of risk-taking when you're asking pilots to go fly in airplanes that have never flown before. That culture has shifted over time, and they lost a lot of that risk-taking edge with high profile failures such as the tanker recompete that they had to do because the protest. You had a whole bunch of missteps back in the Darlene Drurian days. All these things led to a culture that was not tolerant of risk, but now you have two leaders that are sitting at the forefront of SAF AQ that are very comfortable taking risk and intelligent risks at that. They are willing to bet on programs that are, one, expensive, but two, could be game changers. You see that in the RCO. Most of their portfolios, classified and kind of out of the public view, but some of those programs are very cutting edge and are definitely risks. I can tell you the RCO is what led the charge for the open mission system standard that now exists and is the key enabler for what I would say most of our open architecture initiatives. If it wasn't for the RCO using their baseline budget, and they really took the money out of the long range strike bomber and now the B-21's budget line to fund the creation creation of the open mission system standard that now exists, it wouldn't exist, because we wouldn't have industry on board that helped to write the standard with the government and MIT Lincoln Labs in the background helping guide the process. There wouldn't have been enough funding to get these companies to step out and work together to develop a standard they could all live by. Instead, you would still have vendor lock across your platforms, and very expensive platforms as a result. Expensive to sustain, expensive to upgrade, but the RCO took the lead on that. Mr. Bailey wasn't in charge when that happened, but he took over shortly thereafter, and he's been responsible for kind of seeing its transition into the traditional world and the acquisition world, where now it's a common standard that all the new aircraft adhere to. And then General Cropsey being in charge of C3BM, how do you get all of your effects, all these different capabilities that exist on the battlefield to come and be controlled in a common place where you have access to information from all different domains? You also have access to create combined effects from all different domains. C3BM was a huge challenge because they missed early on in their development. There was no common language that all these different systems spoke. So again, the openness of how they would communicate and interact with each other was never a standard that was set. So C3PM was given the task of how do you get all these things to communicate together so you can have combined effects. It's one thing to have an F-16 drop a missile or a bomb on somebody and it have its intended effect. It's another thing to have the F-16 go and do its mission at the same time you have a ground station launching a missile, at the same time you have a ship launching a missile, same time you have effects coming down from space, maybe some jamming happening, maybe some ISR collection. All that happening at the same time in concert is much more powerful. And it's what really sets us apart from our adversaries, our ability to do some of that. And anybody that watched what happened in Venezuela saw that we were able to do some of those things. And that's what was scary to other adversarial governments. It's being able to leverage the combined effects. C3BM has a big role in that area. So between those two leaders, I think SAFAQ is in good hands. The Air Force still has one of the largest RDT&E budgets, research, development, testing, evaluation budgets that exists, and we needed to have strong leadership at the top. Then you throw in the mix of General White, who is the direct reporting program manager. General White, again, I worked with him in the B-21 as well when he was a lieutenant colonel and a colonel. From there, he's gone on to be multiple different PEOs. He's responsible for naming the F-47 what it is. He was in charge of that program at the time. F-47 used to be called NGAD, Next Generation Air Dominance. He's been in the ecosystem for a long time doing the most cutting edge innovative programs and projects. SAFAQ is still going to be responsible for the majority of the Air Force programs, but those critical programs, the B-21, the F-47, Collaborative Combat Aircraft, Sentinel, those programs all kind of report underneath General White as that DRPM. And between General White and then the SAFAQ team, you have definitely the best acquisition officers we have currently are in the Air Force. So the Air Force is in good hands. I'm excited to see where the direct reporting program manager role goes with General White at the helm. I'm excited to see how he leverages that authority for the good. I'm also excited to see what General Cropsey can do with his leadership style, bringing SAFAQ and the rest of the Air Force forward into a more risk-taking vein and to kind of live and lean into that warfighter ethos that we're expected to have, speed, risk, and a relentless focus on the warfighter. I'm excited to see General Cropsey take things in that direction. And with Mr. Bailey's background in all things RCO, I'm confident even without SAFAQ being filled, the Air Force is in good shape. So if you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.